Chapter 10, Hao Atoll. First person, Danny. So why the cat, I asked, looking every bit the total geek. If I was going to pull off being some lawyer's lackey, the beard, the hair, the ripped jeans had to go. Now I'd figured the whole necktie thing out. They were so you could do yourself in more easily when the polyester suit drove you to the edge and beyond. I said, why the cat on the side of the plane? The pilot grinned. The surname Crump was on his flying suit. I don't know about other air forces, but the Kiwi one was pretty relaxed about non-military personnel riding up front. I figured that getting friendly with the only people that could get me off the atoll was a good idea. Squadron mascot is a cat, said the pilot. Readying for approach, called the navigator. You better get seated, said the pilot. I glanced through the cockpit window and saw the long donut shape of Hao Atoll below. It looked way too thin to have an airfield. Not much land, I said. Land gets bigger the closer you get, said the pilot deadpan. Then he and the co-pilot laughed. Don't worry, mate, he added. The P-3 Orion is the safest plane in the sky. Unless I can't get those engines started again. I looked out the windows, left and right, on port and starboard, as they say. The end engines, 1 and 4, were still silent. We were flying on only 2 engines. What happened? Routine, Mr. Haas, said the pilot. It's just an engine shutdown loiter of 1 and 4. Gives us more fuel. The inboard engines are always on. They drive the air conditioning and pressurization. Of course, if I couldn't get one started again, he shook his head. Whoops. That would make rudder and trim work slightly tricky. Kiwi pilots were masters of horrific understatement. P-3 has a range of 4,500 Ks, added the pilot. How far is Hao? 4,890. Which means that little tiny donut of land down there is Mama's tit. Sweet thing. So, saving all the fuel we can. He winked as I staggered back to the hard seat in the fuselage and slumped back down, thinking about dying and tits. Across from me, Kat was trying to write on her knees and keep several pieces of paper from flying around. Want me to shut the door, I said. She didn't look up. What's all that? Complicated legal reasons for a French soldier to let us pass. Well, how will they? I said. In French. I speak French. Remember, Danny? Oh, of course you do. Not enjoying the free trip? Tell you when it's flying the other way, I said. Do I need to go over the plan again, she sighed. I carry a briefcase like I'm just an aide. If they suspect anything, they'll check the case. Which is why the camera isn't in the case, as you suggested. Okay, alright, it was a dumb idea. Sorry, new to the spy thing, I said. They'll take us to the worst part of the base. They may have stripped it deliberately, but knowing the French, they probably don't give a shit about what a tiny British colony at the bottom of the world thinks. So you'll have to get yourself to the medical centre from wherever we are. That's the tricky bit. Tell me about it, and if I'm caught, well, you should have diplomatic immunity. If I was a diplomat, Cat, does anybody else on this plane know about this? I mean, this is approved, right? She finally looked up and stared at me like I was a wild dog. Look, Danny, if you do any time in a cell, it will be minimal, right? A month, tops. But if this comes off, Time Magazine, forever. Ever. She did an echo thing on ever. I should have known then I was... I was just contemplating cat seduction techniques when the comms guys appeared from the front of the plane and leaned over the army guy that was looking after us. The Air Force guy had cupped his hand by the army guy's ear and spoke something slowly and deliberately. Army guy's eyebrows raised immediately in the classic, oh goody, I have important news and get to tell every other dumb sucker. I spent my life watching people just to get that photograph. I don't do psychoanalysis. The moment I push the button, it's just skin deep, you know. It's the eyes of other people that dig deeper when the image is on a wall. I knew what those eyebrows meant. Someone had just shot us out of the relevant sky. Army guy unbuckled his seatbelt and stands, holding onto the fuselage for support. Miss Stonefields, he cleared his throat to speak louder over the engines. P3 Orions are shit noisy. We've just received news via Wellington. Miss Prieur has already left for France. The hell she has, began Kat, after remembering to act like a civilized lawyer. I'm afraid so. The French government felt that if she missed today's flight, her health might be seriously jeopardized. That's total BS, began Kat. I could feel the plane gaining altitude, pulling away from the thin donut-shaped land below. Then I remembered the fuel. But we have to land, I said. We're nearly out of fuel. We have a contingency, another airfield. Ten Hao Atoll, 190 k's to the northwest, said the army man. The French will be hostile if we land now at Hao. I made my way back to the cockpit, not because I wanted to land on Hao Atoll, but because I didn't want to run out of fuel over the ocean. I crouched behind the pilot. What are you going to do? I asked him. We might make it to Hikueru, he smiled, if engines 2 and 3 stay happy. He flicked a switch, and a plume of smoke blew from engine 3, and the props died. Whoops, said Captain Crump. The floor tilted, and the pilot gripped the steering control tightly. What happened? I said. Seems like she doesn't want to go to Hikueru Island. Feather out 1 and 4, Dave, Crump said to the co-pilot. The co-pilot just nodded and adjusted a few switches. Nothing happened. 1 and 4 not responding, the younger pilot said. Can we get to Hikueru on 2 engines? Oh yeah, but who wants to try it? It's 20 minutes. A lot can happen in 20 minutes, Mr. Haas. If we lose another, that's not good. The nose lowered and the pilot swung hard, steering the P3 on 2 engines. No choice, Dave. Comms, contact Hao Airport. Permission to land. Add that we are landing. Got it, said the radio guy just behind me. You should sit down, Mr. Haas. Check your gear. The gear I had to check was in the sleeve of my jacket. A 1980s spy version of the old pigeon camera. Yes, folks, I used to strap a camera to a pigeon, get it to fly over a secret site. Bet a hell of a lot of birds got blown out of the sky without knowing a thing about photography. This one I attached to the sleeve of my jacket, so the tiny lens poked through where the spare cuff button usually was. All I had to do was fold my hands in front of me and press with my right index finger and snap. If I wanted a high shot, I stretched like my back was sore and how did I get this wee camera? Well, that's a short story in itself. On the way to Whenuapai Air Base, bleary-eyed and zombie-gazing at the dark shapes of trees just outside the beam of the headlights, Kat shoved some money into my hand. The driver nodded as I gave directions to the scenic drive, and the guy was Ken Kendall. Ex-army, ex-every other kind of weird shit. He had these half-round tin sheds tucked away in the bush. Whatever you could think of was probably stashed in some corner. You could guarantee, too, that it would have the written instructions with it. Ken was anal like that. But it never stopped him from explaining every minute detail of what could go horribly wrong. Mate, he began, half an eye open around the edge of a half-open door. I'd bet money he had a cricket bat in the other hand. Ken was paranoid about thieving bastards sneaking up around his priceless junk. Mate, it's 2 in the effing morning, mate. Sorry, Ken, it's about France. He suddenly perked up, glanced back, passed me at the government car and said, Rainbow Warrior shit. I nodded. Hang on. Then he disappeared. I heard bare feet hitting metal and curses, and the shed light suddenly filled the yard with light. Every car part you didn't know about was strewn across the ground. There was something under a paruri tree that looked like half a tank. The shed door clattered up and Ken waved me in. I opened for business. Is it a limpet mine? Give them a taste of their own, eh? Now where is that box? You don't have limpet mines, I said. Well, no. Not ones with the charge in them. But I've got the casings and I know a fella. He winked at me. Works down at Navy munitions bunker. Ken laughed manically. He's crazy. I just seen a spy camera, something really small. He scratched his bald head, sucked his bottom lip, then went, oh yeah. Then he bounced off over biplane wings and rail tracks to the far corner and a mountain of boxes and trays all labelled. Ken dug his way into the pile like a miner rescuing someone buried. Reaching through a gap, he pulled out a small, stained cardboard box and held it aloft triumphantly. Mint condition. First developed by pigeon lover Dr. Julius Neubrommer in 1907. This one is a 1950s version. Still works, mate. Did you know, Danny, that the German Patent Office turned down Neubrommer's application cause, get this, they reckon your average domestic pigeon wasn't up to carrying a 75-gram load. Ken pulled it out and showed it to me. A pigeon might be able to carry it, but it was still too bulky for my liking. Anything smaller? I said. Oh, mate, you're breaking me heart. Oh, all right, you can have it. Ken went to a glass cabinet and unlocked it. He pulled out a box you might put a wedding ring in and handed it to me. Instructions are inside, mate. Welcome to the F-21, the KGB's camera of choice during the Cold War. 2.5 Ms times 7.5 Ms total dimensions. Wind up film advance, 3 shutter speeds, 110, 130 and 100. Comes with an extension cable for pocket operation. She's my pride and joy, mate. How I found out my old lady was cheating on me. I walked back to the car. Cat was doing a dance around the car, slapping at mosquitoes. Should have worn trousers, I said. You got it? Damn, these things slap. I waved the small box at her, then heard Ken whistle. I turned in time to catch a box of film flying through the air. On the house. I spent time in the islands. Ah, the French, mate. Then he caught sight of Cat's long legs. Well, hello, lovely secret agent lady. 14 hours later, everything went pretty much as expected. The French were very pissed off, even for the French. They wouldn't let us get out of the plane for an hour. Then I guess some phone call was made and they decided that having broken every agreement possible with New Zealand, they should hand out some sweets and be nice. We got shown to a bare room with only a single high window for any light. The table was covered in pastries and coffee. I mean, if this was a Bond film, machine guns would come out of the walls and blow us and the pastries to bit. Cat was talking French faster than the French attaché, both competing for most hand gestures in under 20 minutes, kind of thing. I thought I got a look from the guy of, you're pissing me off, woman, but sacre bleu, I like your style. Then he left and Cat turned to the group of pilots, engineers and government types and said, okay, the gist of it is this. We don't have to pay for the fuel, but they want us gone as soon as the plane is refueled. That's an hour top, said Crump the pilot. I'd sussed his first name was Tom, but I just called him Captain. With his cap off, I noticed he was younger looking than I first thought. He was also a ginger. Cat sauntered towards me. She pulled a chair up beneath the window and flicked an eye up. I got it. And standing on the chair, peered across the airport. See it, she whispered. Into the concrete block wall. Yeah. Left. 150 yards. Got to be the hospital. You sure? Well, it's got an ambulance parked outside, I joked. But my legs were making the chair rattle. Cat gripped the chair. You've got less than an hour. Also, they have a soldier just outside the door with a gun. It's a real gun, Cat. Just then I heard Captain Tom Crump clear his throat. He was right by us. An hour for what? He asked. We stared at him blankly. Come on, he said. I guess you're no lawyer. He was looking at me. I dress like one, I said. Smell, language, way you carry yourself, mostly smell. Cat looked at me. Well, I did my best. Okay, Tom, I'm a photographer. I'm trying to get pictures of the hospital to make a case against the French actions. To prove there was no need for her to be repatriated, said Tom. I get it, wait here. A moment later, the co-pilot, called Dave, closest to my size, was standing in his undies, and I was putting on sunglasses, an Air Force cap, overalls, and working my chewing gum. But they saw us come in, I said. They don't see faces, said Captain Tom. Uniforms see uniforms and rank. It's all about rank. Okay, Sergeant Huss. Well, Sergeant Dorner now. He tapped the name on the flying overalls. Let's go. Oh, one last thing. You're impersonating a military officer in a French military base. Yeah, it's illegal, I know. Well, it's a little more than that, Danny. Technically, you are a spy, so... It only took a blink. Oh, you are kidding me. I twisted around to look at Kat. She just shrugged. I shrugged too at what an idiot I was. Again because of this woman. I wasn't even sure if I liked her anymore. You mean they could... Yeah, they could shoot you. Or throw away the key, grinned Captain Tom. He paused before knocking on the door. Still good to go, he asked me. I felt Kat's hand on my shoulder, not sure if she was supporting me making my own choice or ready to shove me through the door. Uh-huh. I managed to get out. Captain Tom knocked on the door. It was a much better knock than I could have done. Guess captains have that knack. The soldier on guard opened the door and shook his head. Personne ne part. No one leave, he said in very slow English, either because he didn't know much English or he thought we were stupid. Tom turned to Kat. She said something in French, something about pilots' orders and having to supervise the loading of fuel, otherwise they couldn't take off. The French soldier called someone on the wall phone and with a nod off we went. He didn't speak much English, we guessed. Chit-chat was non-existent. Kat followed to interpret. Through the next door we go left. You go right, said Captain Tom. Right should lead you to the part of the airfield where the hospital is. After that, up to you. Tom turned to me as we walked. This worth it, Danny? I don't know. I was smoking dope in a cockroach-infested attic and taking porn of naked women that should have given it in 5 years ago. What can be worse, eh? He smiled. Dying, maybe? I didn't have time to respond to the dead dry joke. We were just close to the last doors. Wait, I grabbed Tom. What happens when the Frenchie sees he's lost one? Tom nodded over his shoulder. The flight engineer was dressed in exactly the same way as me, was following just behind Kat. The guard stopped to unlock a door. I quickly shook Tom's hand. Thanks. But I felt something like recognition. I was getting those weird feelings a lot lately. Have we met? I quickly said. Don't think so, smiled Tom. Just make sure we meet again. Then the flight engineer pushed in front of me and went shoulder to shoulder with Tom. I glanced back through the glass panes at Kat. She waved from the other side of the door and smiled at me. I just about forgot what I was doing there. She actually smiled at me. What a dope. And I was going right, pissing my pants at every step. I was on my own. Secret Agent Danny Hess. I found a sign in French, sans issue, above a door with a fire exit bar, so I guess, well, it says, all spies, please exit here. At this point, it didn't matter. I threw off the overalls and unrolled the suit jacket I'd stuffed into the overalls. I reset the camera and got lucky. There was a loose clipboard and hard hat on the wall. I grabbed them and instantly looked like I belonged there, like some government inspector. I had the thought that Kat could have taught me a few phrases in French. Don't shoot being top of my list. I pushed the door out and entered the bright sunlight. A truck full of soldiers passed, and the roar of the engine turned my knees liquid. I looked down, as disinterested as I could. Head still down, I started striding across the tarmac, clipboard on one arm. I was almost to the first ambulance, and thinking, so far so good, when I heard someone call out something in French. I didn't understand it, of course, but I knew the sound was aimed at me, and the tone was definitely, who the are you? I stopped, turned, jerked an arm out, and checked my watch, taking a picture of the guy at the same time. Then I gestured a what with my arms. Drama and photography class, of course, the only two periods I proved I really existed at school. Comment vous appelez-vous? Qui êtes-vous? Asked the tall, thin French officer. Who am I? Dr. Daniel. Look, do you speak English? Yes, I do, he replied. You're from the New Zealand plane. What are you doing here? A woman. One of our women is sick. What is her sickness? He asked, and I thought he sounded like an alright guy. Think, Denny, think. Asthma. She's got asthma. She's lost her inhaler. The tall officer nodded and gestured for me to follow. He had the feeling of a guy bored out of his brain and looking for something halfway worthwhile to do. This was too good to be true. I now had an escort. He unlocked the doors that would have stopped me at first base. Fortunately, his office, where he kept the key to the medicine, was at the other end of the hospital. I lifted my sleeve to cough. Pick 1. Full radiology department. Pick 2. 2 operating theatres. Pick 3. Full medical teams passing, pushing what looked like a sophisticated health stuff. Pick 4. A local island woman giving birth. Bingo. If I'd stopped there, that would have been enough to sink them in court. To my untrained eye, the medical facilities here looked better than most small towns. You're going to get it all, Cat, I thought. The tall French officer came out of his office. I noticed that he had a slightly askew chin, like he was chewing all the time. My name is Lieutenant Enchambeau, he offered politely before leading me to a medicine lockup bigger than my flat. He opened one cupboard and turned to me. Please, take the one you need. I gazed at the packages. There were 3 main kinds, all in different colours. The language was English, unfortunately. American, said Enchambeau. We and the Americans speak the same language, if you get what I mean. So, easy for you to read, Doctor. I think I knew then, when he paused just before saying doctor. I knew he was on to me and that he too had done drama at school. Old thespians just couldn't resist the old pause. 3-1. Not bad odds, I thought. I grabbed the one with the blue wrapping. In magic tricks, it's always the blue. And hey, it was always the blue wire they're diffusing bombs. It wasn't blue, because Enchambeau immediately clicked his tongue and sighed like the bloody drama queen he was. If it is an emergency, Doctor, then surely you would want the steroid tablets, not the preventers? Oh yeah, sorry. You're not the doctor, are you? Not just the medication. You passed through our entire hospital and didn't comment on one single thing. I've never known a doctor to not comment about a hospital he's never been in before. What are you doing here, Mr. Daniels? Really? Or is it as simple as you are spying on a French military base? Spying, may I add, very badly. Un débutant absolu, we say. An absolute beginner, it seems. Yes, was all I said. I almost added a, yes sir, sorry sir, won't do it again sir. An hour later the door to the room I was being held in opened. Cat entered. How'd you get in? I'm a lawyer. And I need one. I heard the P3 Orion start up its engines, all 4 of them. This a kiss goodbye or a kiss my ass goodbye, Cat? Always joking, Danny. It's good, that'll help. Oh shit, Cat, don't say that. I got the branding irons out already. You must have a backup plan, right? They'd throw some legal shit at them? Tell them the New Zealand government will get really upset? They won't let you leave. I assume they found the camera. Fell out when I tried to run. Must have forgot we're on a small island. You got into the hospital, you saw it? That might do. I sat back in the chair, put my arms behind my back and laughed. You realize the French have probably thought of that too. I'm not leaving any time soon, Cat. I'll do everything I can, Danny, she said. She rose and started pacing. Yes, I'll do everything I can. After all, you're being held here because they have something to hide. At each step of those wooden heels, I saw her changing focus in the blink of an eye. She had lost the French agent, but she had managed to get someone else locked up, commonly known as idiot numero uno. Cat, the minute you leave, they'll beat the shit out of me. I fooled them. I broke their security. In case you haven't noticed, with the nuking atolls and blowing up protest ships, the French are a very proud race. She turned, looked down at me and said something that just blew all other cold cat lines out of the water, no pun intended. If they do, if you can get a photograph of yourself, of the injuries. She stopped herself, maybe realizing she'd gone too far. She put a hand on my shoulder and kissed the side of my head. As I turned, I said to her, "Feed the cat." "What?" "I have a cat, a stray. Just put some food out near the footprints." "All right," she nodded. "What's it called?" "Cat. It's just called Cat." I didn't tell her it was Cat with a K. That would have been too sad. Then she left me in a French jail on a French island in the middle of the fucking Pacific fucking ocean. But I was wrong, not about the beating. They let me out 2 weeks later. Once the bruises had faded, I guess. The French didn't want any more attention on the Rainbow Warrior affair, as it became known. There was nothing about me in the papers. It was like the whole thing never happened. The P3 had never landed on Hal. It was all hushed and all participants reassigned to the coldest parts of the Empire. Kat wasn't there to meet me when the plane touched down in Auckland. She was in The Hague, already making as much noise as possible. I started to reprimand her in my mind, but then I thought maybe it was better we just got on with our lives. I was 27. It was time to leave school behind. Kat was a part of that school scrapbook. School days. Looking back, it nearly got me shot. Time to look where I was going for a change. It had been weeks since I thought about the river and Susan. I didn't know then that a time would come when I would have almost forgotten everything. And I'd need to remember all over again.